released the most wanted product of a year, that is Exam Cloud Forms Builder. My name is Martin Miles. I'm 8-time Sitecore Technology MVP, and today I'd like to show this product in action. Here we go. Sitecore recently released one of the most wanted features for Exam Cloud, Composable Forms Builder. And today I would like to familiarize you with this new feature. Let's take a look at the main screen of Cloud Portal. From here I am selecting an environment. I pick up Content Editor. Let's go to the dashboard. And now you see this new icon for Composable Forms Builder. That's a grid that shows all your available forms. So you see the form name, you see the statistics, you see the status, if it's active, if it's draft. You can also create labels so that you will be able to do a filtering by label. You can also do a filter by status. You can search by name. Each of the form has a context menu with these helpful comments. And of course, we have a Create New button. Other than that, we have another tab which allows us to create webhooks, but I will cover it separately. Let's create a new web form. I'll try to give it any meaningful name, but there's nothing more meaningful than test universally. So let's give it this name. And now we see the main overall UI where we can edit the forms. On the left hand side we see 3 tabs. One is for layout. Everything you see here is nicely draggable to the main canvas. When it comes to layout, we have 6 predefined options, whether we want to go with the full width layout or if we want to have column layouts. There are different options. Whichever we prefer, we just drag it and drop it to a page. The main tab is called Items. It contains of 2 major sections, Fields and Basic. Basic has some elements that are non-interactive for the UI capture purposes. For example, text, which might be a label, it can be image, space, anything, right? When it comes to fields, that is actually the fields that do capture the user input. The most famous is probably short text, which is here. There are other useful fields, you may see them all here. Probably all the possible elements we can only imagine are presented here. There is another section that is very much intriguing. It's called Custom. There is nothing inside, but because we have this session, I have an assumption that sooner or later we will be able to export some custom elements which will be able to drag to the canvas here. Something similar to how Bring Your Own Component works for the component builder. Anyway, let's take a look at the canvas. So I dropped the text field here and we see it selected. On the right hand side we see the context panel for this particular field. There's lots of things we can control, almost everything. So first of all, we have the main label that is available above the input. We have input itself, so we can provide a placeholder value which is displayed in gray. We also can do pre-fill value. The difference is that basically the value while placeholder is simply the gray watermark, giving you hint what to input into this box. There are also two checkboxes. One is to make this field hidden. So yes, you can do hidden fields with the form. And another is for required. But at this stage, I would like to beware you from selecting both them together like I've done now, because that traps you into the deadlock. So guess what happens? If I make this field required, that means that I won't be able to submit the form without entering input into this field. But if I make it hidden, then I will not be able to enter anything. The whole field, including the validation message, will get hidden from my eyes. And because I cannot control it and it's required, I cannot progress with the form. So hopefully developers will make this fixed at some stage. Okay, we also have validation here, which is done in the form of regular expression. You can create an irregular expression, which will prevent users from filling unwanted data. In the same manner, we can limit the characters, we do paddings, like lots of other styling options here. Fill styles, you can get the color, for example, something like that. That's the border you see. Anyway, you can control almost any aspect of the form from this context menu. And if you're carefully watching the screen, you may ask, but wait, there is another style in top left-hand side. What is that for? And the difference is that right-hand side styling applies to the currently selected field. So this panel is kind of context panel to what is selected here. At the same time, this applies to the entire canvas. For example, I can do change the background color here. I selected black, let it be slightly yellow, and you see this color applies to the whole canvas and to the all segments. So that's the difference. Let's go back to white. You also see here lots of other useful elements, and in general the overall UI reminds me pages, application pages builder from the XM Cloud. That same nice UX, UI, and I would call it a premium quality because I really like the quality of this product. Interestingly, that XM Cloud Forms, they derive from Sitecore Send, which is Moosend product. Of course, they took the forms from Sitecore Send and they make it much more advanced than the AI in the original product. But look here what we can do. We have reverse and forward button. We have versions automatically saved upon a timer. And of course, you will be able to switch between versions from this panel. You see the panel with these different options. You can do preview, you can leave comments. The main one selected is editing. Settings is something I'm going to show you at the end. This looks familiar from the Pages application, exactly the same. It's called devices or breakpoints, how old school designer love to call them. So you can switch between different widths for different devices. That's how you make sure your form performs under various viewpoints. This label shows the current status of the form. So current is draft, which means it's not seen anywhere, it's not published. The published state is called active, and we've seen it initially when I loaded the main screen. There were two forms in active state. So in order to make this form visible externally, it must be published into active stage. Okay, one of the great features that I love here indeed is a template library. So template library has some sort of preset UI and UX with forms which you can use, and you can customize them. You can share them between your colleagues and between your team. You can also browse predefined items, and there is expectations some of forms will get shared in future. So I picked up this form. You see it's styled and did very nicely. It has 3 fields: full name, email. This is the phone number. It's a dedicated field. I would call it composite because it has the text field specifically tailored for phone number, so it will validate the phone number, and it also has this country drop down allowing users to pick up the desired country. CTA button, and the nice overall layout with the background image. Let's see how it performs on the mobile, and it performs pretty nice. I like it. So other than that, I would like to show you another awesome feature of Forms Builder, and that is called multi-page. What you can do, you can build forms like wizards. When you have one screen, then you click button and it takes you to another screen, and then so on and so forth until you get to the final screen. So at some stage there will be also conditional screens. Let's say you have a drop down here, and depending on the value you select from this drop down, you will get one or another following derived screen. This is not implemented with the current state of forms, so you can only have multi-page. So let's add another page. So you see it is number 2, it inherited the same layout, and there are already 3 placeholders in a similar manner like we have here. So what I suggest, let's make here reCAPTCHA. Let's select reCAPTCHA here. And for this placeholder, I would probably select terms and conditions. And I don't need the 3rd placeholder at all. Let's delete it. Please take a look at this back button. It's done automatically for you. If you are not on the first stage, you will get this button. On non-final stage, you will see next button rather than submit. So this form looks pretty valid to me. I would like, at this stage, I would like to save it and activate so that it changes draft state to the final state. And my assumption is that as soon as I click activate button, it will work, but no. And this is a validation for reason. I made the form, but I did not provide the webhook. What is webhook? Why do we need webhook here? Let's go back a little back in time to XP. Also had forms editor, but with XP, the difference was that once you submit the form, you click submit button. The form posted the data back to your content delivery server, where you could have linked to specific database for the forms, where all the user-generated input was captured. However, with XMCloud, we do not have content delivery server. Even more than that, developers of XMCloud form, they intentionally did not create any SaaS provided storage for you to get this submission collected. So what they have done instead they allow you to customize and create a webhook. So webhook in fact is just a request that takes the data from whatever you submitted in the forms. All your data that been submitted previously, it is called payload. So payload is something that comes along with the request in the form of fields, and it posts that data to whichever URL you provide. So let's do that. Let's do that now. And for the sake of this experiment, I created a request bean here. So there is no request. What request bean does is it will create an endpoint for me. Let me see. Okay, it will create an endpoint. This is URL of this endpoint. I can copy it. So whichever requests come to this endpoint, it will be shown here. So it's basically a trap for any custom webhook. So I copy this address, and I would like my form to submit to this address. So let's manage webhook. Let's create a new one. First of all, we see there are different types of authentication. I think all the possible combination of authentication are provided here. API key, basic, with username, password. In my case, I don't need authentication at all. I only do a post request to this URL, and I would like to give it a meaningful name. It will be a temporal webhook. Let's save it and select it from here. Okay, other than webhook, what I can do at this stage is I can choose what the form will do upon the completion. So one of the options is redirect. We can redirect to a home page, we can redirect to, let's say, any external website, and lots of other redirects we can do here. Other than that, what we can do is we can display success message. So success message is a rich text. It has color, it has typography, fonts, all that. So I would like to show it here. I make it italic. And of course we can do nothing. So basically if we select nothing, nothing will happen upon the form submission. In my case, I would like to display this message. So as soon as I create a webhook and I selected the webhook, now I can publish the form. I do save and activate. So I get this confirmation message saying that if I activate the web form, I will not be able to go to designer any longer. No design changes will happen. So basically it becomes a read-only form. Yes, that's what I want. Now I get back to the main interface. Now I see my form and it's been published. It is in an active state. I can get into the form. I can only do preview here and settings. So what I would like to show you at this stage is one of the really greatest features of these form editors is test webhook feature. So it allows you to see your form right in the same way as you will get it embedded into your website, whichever composable website or composable solution you would like to do. It will be likely a headless website, maybe your XM Cloud, Next.js application, like whatever you choose. So that is how the form will look like. And it allows you to play it in action exactly in the same manner as it works on production. So I give it a name, I give it an email. So I assume the validation should happen because the email is not in the right format. I select the phone number. I click next. And exactly that happens. A validation message shows me that email does not match the desired format. Let's give it right value. So once I click the button, I get to the second screen. And that is actually a bug because I specified the label for terms conditions. There was definitely a label saying that I accept terms, but for some reason it's not displayed here. And let's pick up the bicycles. One more. Now traffic lights. Okay, eventually it recognized me as a human. So once I click this button, I get this preview screen. This screen shows me, first of all, the payload that comes to the request. It contains all my input. This is my name, this is my email, this is the phone number, also the checkbox, reCAPTCHA, and the other values. Also, it shows me all the request headers that will be sent along with my request. So everything you see here will be captured. Once I click submit button, I expect that request will appear here, and we will be able to see and validate all these fields and all these headers there. Okay? Boom. I am getting this message, and remember I made it italic, so it shows me exactly as I wanted. I indeed received this request. So I see 11 headers. Alright, I see body. Body has that same fields as I provided. That's my name, that's my phone number, email, like all the bits. There is IP address being used, and bunch of other helpful pieces of data. So that works. We created the form, we styled the element, we provided the validation, we also wired up the form to a webhook, which we also defined. And we tested the webhook, we make sure that all the fields are captured and the request comes to the valid endpoint, provide all this valuable payload of information, all the fields and all the required information. And it actually works. So far so good. The form is published, you see it's an active state. So the next question comes is, how can we use it? What's the use of this form? So the first thing comes into mind where we can use it. Why not to use it with Exam Cloud? And again, the first obvious decision would be to go into the Pages application and see what we can do there. So I have this basic skate park website, and what I want to do, I want to find the form and drop it somewhere in between this image and this block. So I have this component tab under which I have forms, and it shows me all the published forms. So we remember that my form has the very meaningful name test. What I do is I just drag drop it. I select the right placeholder and drop it. Nothing could be simpler than that. I get this form entirely nicely fill into the block, full width, all the fields, everything. Wonderful. There is one important bit, however, I want to notify at this stage. Your website must be run in the rendering host, which is based on Headless SDK 21.6 or newer, because that's the SDK that get this support for composable forms. If you try to do that with early application, once you drag the form into the Pages application, you will see an orange block saying that something goes wrong. There will be a message that form is not found. Okay, so looks nice, I like it. How about Experience Editor? Let's go there and check. I have this site, homepage, Experience Editor. Once that loads, we scroll down and boom, we have these forms. Looks nice. In Experience Editor, there is something called Bring Your Own Component Wrapper. So this component wrapper allows you to consume some components done by external tools, so that you can use them along your Experience Editor. And let me show you one trick how it actually get wired. If you go to component properties, you will see that bring your own component references component name form, and it also provides a parameter of form ID. So you see 3A to A6. So once I go back to forms, this is my test form. And that's the ID, 3A to A6. So that's the ID, the form, and that is how they actually get wired together. Let's go to preview. I'll try to do the same exercise here. And it perfectly works right in the preview of Experience Editor. I'm getting this italic message, and I'm receiving another request with this data. So that's really great. I'm already impressed by the capabilities of this new XMCloud Forms editor, but what if I raise the bar to even higher level? Well, challenge accepted. So we tried these forms in the Pages interface, but we also have another application, which is Components Builder. Okay, so let's take a look what we can do here. Let me go to default collection, and I will add a new component. I give it a name form tester. All right. First of all, I want to display H1 here, saying that it is XMCloud components builder with a form. Nice. I'm adding another element, and look what I've got here. I've got a form. So I select a form, I drop it below, so it shows me that Sitecore form is non-configured here, and immediately suggests me selection from all the 3 forms I have published here. So if you remember, I have 3 forms so far: test, new form, and sample. And I get these 3 here: new form, sample, and test. The form I was doing before is called test. So I select this form, I can customize it. There's lots of different options here. I can even wire it to data source. Anyway, at this stage, I'm only interested to see if it works in principle. So I stage it and I publish. Yes, please publish. All right. So let's get back to Pages application and see what we have. Typically, components that are done here, they are displayed in this section along with forms. So there is the form which we've done previously, but this is the collection, default collection I have here. This maps to the collection from the components builder. And if I open this default collection, I see form tester. That's the same component I just created. So let me drop it to the same location, which is the full width main. And boom, you see what I've got here? I have a component that has 2 elements, and one of the elements is the form which I created in the form. Okay, so let's go to Experience Editor and see if it works there. amazing. That's my component, and you see it uses different wrapper. That is called frontend as a server wrapper. This is a wrapper that you are using an experience editor to display components that are built with this components interface. So you use bring your own component for forms, and you use frontend as a server wrapper for that component. Once again, if I go here, I see library ID and I see component ID in the properties, which are these values. Anyway, let's go to preview mode and see if it works. One thing I noticed here is that the styles for the button have changed, so it looks differently, and I'm wondering why. What exactly affects the styling? Yes, the form has been submitted, and there is a new request just a minute ago here. At this stage, I can only conclude that developers made amazing work. You can combine all these components and all these applications together so that pages, components, content editor, experience editor, everything becomes an integral part of the same XM Cloud ecosystem. And I really impressed by the progress of this product. Well done, developers.